This is the first time I've ever done this.
First, took 24 episodes to get the invite. I hate these stupid questions.
I know, because you're bad at answering questions.
This is stupid.
Bro, being the number one recruit in the country is so different than you when you were.
I think he's the best quarterback in the league.
What is an NFL quarterback room like?
So 2 years ago, I trained Sam Darnold and Josh Allen and Kyle Allen. That was my draft class.
I think that this league is filled with opportunities, and the guys that stay in the league for a long time are the guys that take advantage of those opportunities.
I'm just a big believer in repetition.
I'm a big routine guy, and goals never end.
I'm just a big
I'm a big routine guy, and goal. Once I stepped on that field today, I was good, man.
All right, welcome to The Room, episode 24. It keeps stacking them. I'm surprised every week that we've been doing it this long. You know, addition to subtraction here, Kyle is gone this week. He's up at Pebble playing with Josh, getting ready for the AT&T. So we're subtracting him, but we're adding in not just a guest today, more of a co-host and somebody I've been side by side with. Super pumped. My brother, Carson Palmer. Welcome to The Room.
It took 24 episodes to get the invite, but I appreciate the invite. Finally.
Yeah.
It took an invite to Pebble. Josh is welcome. I gave him my spot. I was going to play, but I got a bum shoulder. So Josh is going to slide in there and take my spot. And you know, Kyle gets to also play. So good for him.
Yeah, it's good. Plus, you added the other guys we tried to get this week that couldn't. You know what I mean? It's like, and then you're the fill-in. So
I get it.
Yeah. But no, stoked you're here. And this is going to be fun. So for those of you tuning in, this is The Room. This is the QB Room. We created this because there's podcasts from punters and DBs and O-linemen and D-linemen. There's all these things. But the quarterback room in a building is the most important room in a building. If it's dialed, then you have a chance to make a run at the end. And if it's not dialed, you have zero chance to make a run at the end. High school, college, or pro. And so we want to take those conversations. If you're new here, like and subscribe. But we're taking those conversations, and if you've seen any of our stuff before, this is the most common comments we get is like, man, I haven't seen him like that before. I haven't seen him talk like that before. It's because we're taking that QB room, kicking it, hanging out before the meeting, after the meeting, sit around the lockers, bringing that here. But today's super unique. Also, if you've tuned in, you know that, I mean, Carson and I, we've never done this before. We've never done media before. We've done a couple little things here or there. When they give Carson like $100,000 to do something, there's an extra $12. They'll hire me to come in and join him. But so you don't know what we're talking about today. I'm going to go through some stuff, but it's stuff we never really talked through and put out. And I know at least one person's going to love this. Shout out Dana Palmer out in Nashville. Hasn't missed an episode.
Shout out
to her mom. But let's get into it. So we play this game every week. I'm just going to throw it to you. Normally Kyle and I go back and forth. It's called throw it deep or check it down. All right. So this is, if you love it, if you agree, you're going to throw deep.
Okay.
If not, you're going to check it down. Okay. So this is like from the 12-yard line, first down mentality here. I'm either ripping this thing, or I'm just throwing it out of bounds. Okay. So we're either throw it deep or check it down. Throw it deep or check it down. The Broncos are Super Bowl contenders in 2023 now that they've hired Sean Payton. You live in Idaho in the middle of nowhere. I don't even know this, but Sean Payton's the new head coach of the Broncos.
I'm checking it down. We have this thing called America Online here, and I can dial in on my internet connection, and I can get news. So I did hear about that. I thought that when I was hearing about that, none of it made sense because Sean Payton can take whatever job he wants. And I know Denver is sexy and It's awesome and it's a beautiful place to live and unbelievable, probably the most money in the organization with the ownership group, and they've got to win now. They've got to prove that Hackett was an outlier and that year one with Russ, and they have so much to prove. But at the end of the day, you are tied to Russell Wilson for at least another year, probably two. And Russ is a different player. Now that Russ doesn't have those legs he had at 22, 23, 24, those legs are what made Russell great, along with the best defense in the National Football League back to back years. But now that he doesn't have that magic to get out of the pocket, spin out of this move and take off and run and take a hit, he's just a different player. And I think that Sean had to separate himself from Russ going into the building and make that the organization. That's the only reason I think he would have taken that job, if he has that ability to be able to get rid of Russ and find his own quarterback. So I'm punting.
Dude, I'm checking that down too. I think this, I think Russ took a U-turn, and I don't know how you take another U-turn and go back. And I 100% agree. That was going to be my answer, is that the only way Sean Payton takes this job, it's not a shock when I saw it. And this whole last 2 weeks, I've been like, he's not going to take that job. He's either going to try, would have wanted the Chargers job if it came up because you got Justin Herbert, or take one of these jobs with a marquee centerpiece quarterback. Otherwise, go back to Fox, make $8 million, and wait till the next run next year. When I saw that, it's like, okay, one, I'm in a long-ass contract. You're making a ton of money, and I am not tied to Russell Wilson to be on this year, right? Don't care what it costs. They traded up 3 first-round picks to get Russ, plus they traded the first-round pick they got for Bradley Chubb to get Sean Payton because they had to get him out of his New Orleans contract. So he's going in there going, all right, I don't have any first-round picks. All right, so there's the salary cap. Everybody knows there's the salary cap. You and I a couple weeks ago had a discussion about that with Joe Burrow's contract coming up. There's a salary cap, but you can go over with signing bonuses. So I think he's sitting here looking at the new wealthiest owner, sitting here going like, we better go way over this cap. We better not have any financial things prohibiting us from getting the pieces that I need to win here. And by the way, I'm not tied to 3. I'm able to address this in a year or 2, or we turn it around, we fix it, and we get value out of a guy who's been great. The thing that'll be interesting is more attempts better or worse for Russ. So over the course of Russell's 8 years or 9 years in Seattle, he averaged 30 attempts a game. Drew Brees in his time with Sean Payton averaged, it was 38.4 attempts per game. So over the course of the season, that's another 100+ attempts. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. I'm not as sold on Jerry Jeudy and the pieces around him as it looks on paper. And I think it's a tougher situation to win in. And the Chargers are going to be better. And the Chiefs are going to probably be coming off the Super Bowl win. And the Raiders are going to be upgrading. Who's going to be in their quarterback? So, yeah, I was shocked at it. We're both checking it down.
Unless he got a 10-year, I mean, it could be some sort of, I don't know what it was reported.
It's got to be $100 million. John Gruden got $100 million.
It's got to be a 10-year.
It's got to be $100 million.
It's got to be a 10-year deal, which is great for him because Russ will be out of the league by the time he's at the end of that deal.
Yeah. The other thing that's crazy when you think about these coaches' contracts is like, so let's just say it's $100 million, but it's $100 million plus like global pass, which is like, I get to draw from the fleet of jets with a 45-minute heads up anywhere in the world. Coaches don't have that much free time. I know it wasn't this offseason, it was offseason before. Me, Sam, Josh, Kyle, I think Sanchez, we, flew private out to Mississippi and went and played golf with Brett Favre for 3 days, right? We go and play this 6 spot, like Old Waverly and the Mossy Oak, these 2 courses. We went out for 3 days. And they're like, the courses are shut down for these 2 days. So we played golf our balls, right? The only other person there is Sean Payton. And this is like right before OTAs. And he's there with a group of 6 or 7 dudes. Like, to a guy like that who's also single, like, to be able to go, yeah, let's play Augusta this afternoon. So, like, the Walmart family, the Walton family, like that, those are pieces of this. So I want $100 million. I want to be able to give a 45-minute heads up anywhere in the world, pick from the fleet of planes. I want all of those things. And it's like, yeah, maybe that guy will wear Russell Wilson for a year or 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You get to be in Denver and I don't know, you could figure it out in Denver. It's a great organization. I don't know how involved Elway is, but I'm sure the Walton family's got a couple of great people on that staff in that organization. It just seems like they're going to do things the right way. And over time, all he needs is one more Super Bowl win. That's it. And he needs to squeak one out of the next 10 years. Maybe if he gets 2, that's just icing on the top of the cake. But it's the more I think about this, it's a great situation because there's no way he's tied to Russ.
Yeah.
It's actually, that was the leverage he had going into the room. Right?
Yep.
Because every coach that they're interviewing was like, hey, well, what's the deal with Russ? How am I tied to him? What if it, so that was a great leverage situation for him to walk in or his agent to walk into that room and start bargaining.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting because I think the root of Russ's issues is narcissism. It's crazy. Like, I'm not even going to get into the specifics, but just like, it's crazy. And then out of the head coaches, Sean Payton did that category too. And it worked with Drew because there was still some humility with Drew and the ability to work together. It's going to be maybe my favorite storyline to follow next year, this offseason.
Well,
is these two
think about the dynamics of the situation last year. You got Nathaniel Hackett, who nobody had heard of, literally the day before he got the job. And then you got Russ. So Russ is the big dog in the room, within the organization. Well, now you got your dog with Russ and Sean Payton. So how does Russ react to not being the big dog in the real? The dynamics there. It'd be really fun to be the third string quarterback in Denver and just
They got to get Hard Knocks. They got to get Hard Knocks.
Oh, dude. That'll be the first Hard Knocks I would ever watch, and I've been on Hard Knocks a couple times, but I would watch that one.
I would too. Yeah. Well, good news. I got Jerry Curatano in that room. I can't wait to hear about it. Awesome. All right. We're going to move to another game here. This is called Brotherly Love. So Philly's in the Super Bowl. It's the city of brotherly love. Okay. You got the Kelsey brothers. I don't know if you know this, but they have a podcast. They kill it. What's pretty crazy about the Kelsey brothers is like polar opposites. They play different positions. Their whole vibe is different. They're also like the best tight end in the league and the best center in the league. They're like the best at their position in the whole league. And it's been that way for a while. And there's probably another couple years of a run where it is. So
real quick, when Travis called the mayor of Cincinnati a jabroni, that was the funniest thing I've heard. And like, I want to hang Travis Kelce might be the coolest guy in the NFL. I already like him more than Gronk. I want him to be on TV. I want him on camera. I want more of him. He is awesome.
Yeah, no, he's great. And he's super good at football too. All right. True. So while the Kelsey brothers are sharing the stage at the Super Bowl this year, they've also played under the same NFL coach. So we're going to score this. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You're going to get it right. You're going to get it wrong. We're going to score it. We're going to see what you do. So the Kelsey brothers, they have played under the same NFL coach. Who is that coach?
Like a head coach?
Yeah.
It's Andy Reid, isn't it? Was Kelsey old enough to be there when Andy Reid was in Philly?
Final answer?
I mean, that's the obvious answer. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, you're 1 for 1. This Hall of Fame QB was the number 1 pick in 1970, while his younger brother, Craig, also a QB, went in the 7th round of the 1980 draft. Who's the guy that was the number 1 pick in 70, whose little brother is Craig? Hall of Fame. That narrows it down.
That one, Craig's the Hall of Famer?
No, the number 1 pick guy is the Hall of Famer.
His brother. I mean, who's your question? Who comes up with this question?
Jake.
Who was the number 1 pick in 1970? I don't.
So he's a Hall of Famer from 70, and he's got a younger brother. I'll narrow it down. You've spent time with this guy before. I'm going to give you a hint. I know we never get hints when we play games like this. He's got a worse hairline than you.
But is it worse than yours? That's what I need to know. Is it worse than yours?
Well, definitely. It's worse than yours. It's worse than mine.
I spent time with him.
No,
is he a coach at some point?
No, he's on TV.
Dude,
I'm giving you no idea. Terry Bradshaw. I just saw this question. I didn't know Terry Bradshaw had a brother that played in the league.
I didn't know Terry was the number 1 pick in 1970.
I didn't know that either. I knew he was a Hall of Famer though.
Interesting.
All right. Which Hall of Fame tight end gave his first Super Bowl ring to his brother, who had his NFL career shortened by a neck injury?
Yeah. A Hall of Fame tight end that brother didn't.
His brother played in the league, but his career was shortened with a neck injury.
Was his brother a tight end as well?
No. But close. You should get this one.
I hate these stupid questions.
I know, because you're bad at answering questions.
This is stupid. I don't know. Kellen Winslow. I don't know.
Sterling.
Who is it?
Sterling Sharp. Shannon Sharp. Members?
I actually should have known that. I should have known that.
There's not that many Hall of Fame tight ends. Like you said, does Tony have a brother? Does Todd Heap have a brother? Like there's not that long. And then
Todd Heap's not in the tight end. See, or Todd Heap's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. There's not that many guys in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
But Todd Heap is not in the Hall of Fame.
So I'm saying I just threw out a name of somebody I knew you know. But
next question.
Sterling
we get to
Sharp
the next segment.
Was a big guy. All right. In 2005, both of the Giants quarterbacks were NFL QB siblings, meaning at that time they both had a brother playing in the league. Who were they? Who were the Giants quarterbacks? 05.
The Giants quarterbacks. Well, Eli was there. Okay. His backup was like backup was like Anthony and Lorenzen. Lorenzen have a brother? Lorenzen's not 05. Lorenzen's older or younger than that.
Jared Lorenzen?
Yeah.
J-Load?
J-Load. No, J-Load was
the hefty lefty?
J-Load was like
rest in peace.
09.
Yeah, no, it's not him.
R.I.P. J-Load?
Yeah. Jared Lorenzen died a few years ago.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's awful.
One of the all-time great nicknames, J-Load.
Oh yeah,
It's one of the greatest
dude,
nicknames ever.
he was awesome.
Yeah.
His Kentucky film was so much fun to
He was
watch.
spitting that thing all over. Yeah.
And all right, so 05 quarterback room was
You know this
A-Dub.
guy.
is it A-Dub? Does Anthony Wright have a brother in the league?
No, but I saw
Nah.
A-Dub at Manning Passing Academy last year. It was awesome catching up with that guy. His son's
Yeah.
like a baller.
He's awesome.
he's great. You know this guy.
So Eli,
You know both the brothers.
A-Dub, and was it Hasselbeck?
Yeah, it's him.
Hasselbeck there? 10 for 3.
After a lot of hints. Last question. The two most famous NFL brothers, Eli and Peyton Manning, have only squared off against each other twice in the NFL. Which brother won both games? Might not be what you think.
Well, Eli.
Peyton. I threw you for a loop. It's Peyton. Very good. So you were...
That's why I hate these stupid games.
Yeah, you're just stupid people play stupid... No, go on good at stupid games. 2 for 5? Something like that? Awesome. All right. Game's over. Let's get into the interview side of this thing. Although I like this. This is fun. All right. So you're drafted number 1 in 03, right? And sit your whole rookie year, right? Times have changed. I mean, second round picks are expected to be the guy now, right? So, and you were a healthy scratch. It wasn't that you weren't talented enough or good enough. It was just like that era. It was like, well, we're going to sit him for a year. We're going to let him learn and watch. So you're going to put on your GM hat here. It's you and I have done a lot sitting here saying what we would have done in this situation, that situation. Okay. So I'm not going to ask you to pick which quarterback you take number 1. I'm working with Will Levis right now, not the other two. So I'll just say like, okay, you're taking Will Levis. So you take Will Levis with the number 1 pick. How do you approach starting him, sitting him, like reps? How I've seen a lot of people do it a lot of different ways. People are throwing guys into the ring. Dude, Urban Meyer, I don't know if I ever told you this. They took Trevor number 1. Urban Meyer split 50-50 reps with him, OTAs and training camp, all the way through. He wanted him to earn it with Gardner Minshew. A week before the season starts, he names Trevor the starter and trades Gardner Minshew. So he wasted 50% of the offseason with the number 1 pick and then started it. Deshaun Watson was the starter in Houston at halftime of the first game. Bill O'Brien went with the other guy first. So I've seen people screw this up a lot of ways. I've seen people ease into it the right way. How would you approach, let's say you take Will Levis number 1, you're the Texans, I'm making it up. How do you approach them?
Well, I approach it by he gets every rep he can without throwing too many balls and starts week 1. Unless it's an Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes situation. But even looking back at that, start Alex the first couple weeks, and then you tell Patrick you're going to play week 3 or 4 or 5. The more important part of it is just the structure of the current contracts. Back in the day, you would that first pick in the draft, if Will was drafted pre the current CBA that the players are playing under, he would sign a 6-year deal with a 7th-year option. And so you had 6 years to decide, are you going to give this guy a second contract and really kind of work him in? But you just don't have that luxury anymore. You got to know if a guy's the guy. And if you're going to draft somebody like Will Levis, who has all of the intangibles and all kinds of raw talent, you put him in week 1, you get him as many reps as he can, and you, unlike they used to do it back in the day, you were a young guy coming from a non-NFL style of college football, has to learn that's the NFL's, the coordinator's, his way or the highway. You're going to learn this super complicated 10 or 15 protections, 25 formations, run game check, take all that out of it. Just make it easy, make it simple. A lot like what Kyler Murray went through with Cliff Kingsbury his first year in Arizona. They went back and took a bunch of the stuff that Kyler was successful with in college and dumbed down the offense to make it easy for a young rookie quarterback. And I think that's the route. I think if you have a chance to draft a guy with all like a Will Levis or a Stroud or just a guy that can just flat out spin it and throw it and is better than, physically better than probably the top half of the NFL current starters. If you've got that kind of raw talent, get it on the field, make the system really easy, bring the offense back, bring that playbook down a little bit for all the players, all the vets around him, and make it easy on the quarterback. But back in the day, when I was coming in and we got thrown a playbook, it was that thick. And no matter how much football you knew in your past from college, it didn't matter. You had to learn that playbook because you had 6 years with a 7th year option and on the former structure of the rookie contracts. That's out the window. Now you've got 4 years and a 5th year option kind of, weighing you down. You got to see if the guy can play and make it easy on him week one. Don't get too complicated. And I just think that's what we've seen. I mean, you look at the handful of quarterbacks that have played and aren't sitting anymore. They're getting thrown to the fire right away, but they're not forcing their hand to learn this super complicated, really in-depth system. They're making it, they're tailoring it to these young quarterbacks. And Justin Fields is a great example. What couldn't be a more simple system with a ton of running options within that system? Now, hopefully, as Justin gets more comfortable with the league, he learns more about football from NFL coaches, they can take some of those runs out and replace those quarterback runs with throws that are a little bit more complicated than what they were doing his first year. But I thought, with all this chaos that was going on in Chicago, they did a good job not making it really challenging for him and letting him play fast. And that's one thing you saw him do. He played fast. If number one wasn't there, he would peak at number two and he was gone. They put the ball in his hands because he is that raw, unique talent. And I just hope we see more of that in the NFL. And I think we have been seeing that over the last couple of years.
Yeah, times have changed. I remember just Bob Bratkowski, the coordinator in Cincinnati, who you were drafted by, and I ended up playing for too. I mean, just H set to gun, spread right, top till trying to drive after read, alert Mustang dragon on a white one, dot right, blue, mid 674 swoop, these different things and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Cam Newton goes number 1 to Carolina, and the first thing they do is have Gus Malzahn come in and teach some stuff from Auburn.
Totally.
So it's just been a completely different approach. I'm assuming top down from the ownership standpoint. And, I look at the 3 of the top quarterbacks this year. You got CJ Stroud from Ohio State running Ryan Day's system that a lot of Ohio State guys have come from. Very simple. We're going to out athlete you. We're going to have the best receiving class in the country. You guys are going to be open. And then Bryce came from Alabama with Bill O'Brien. And Will came from Kentucky, who had an NFL coordinator fill in when he lost his OC going into his senior year, Rich Scagliello. So it's like you got 2 guys that are coming out of pro-style systems heading into the league. CJ coming out of Ohio State. It'll be interesting to see kind of how that translates. Next question. So Caleb Williams, USC, first guy to win it since Reggie, 3rd quarterback. Even Leinart won it, the Heisman, and did a bunch of stuff that, people who've watched him play aren't surprised. I wasn't surprised at all. I said in the beginning of the season, I thought he'd win the Heisman. And then the rest of the country kind of was like, oh shit, that's the Oklahoma kid. What's different about him, and what do you think we can expect from him coming back this year with even more hype and more expectations?
So you're saying you said before the season started that he was going to win the Heisman?
Yeah, on the herd.
You said Caleb Williams is going to win the Heisman this year. It's on tape.
Yeah, he's my pick to win the Heisman. Yeah, I thought for sure, because I thought I didn't think they'd lose to anybody. I was actually surprised they lost to Utah twice. They didn't play anybody. They didn't play Oregon. It was the only team preseason wise I thought they'd give a chance fits. I didn't think they'd stop anybody, but I damn sure didn't think anybody stopped them. And right now, the Pac-12 is just wide open to the college football playoff. I mean, they're Utah away from being in it, right? And obviously, the way they played against Utah, it wouldn't have gone very well if they got there. And he's the best player in the country. I was certain of that. And what I said on the herd in the preseason is we're going to have 3 quarterbacks taken really high in the draft next year. And there's a chance that the best quarterback is not one of those 3.
Yeah.
Strong.
No, I agree. I think if there's a hole in his game, it's going to be the downfall of dealing with everything that he's having to deal with. And I know he went through, leaving Oklahoma was a big boy move. That was an adult decision. It wasn't easy. But now, now that you're a Heisman winner, things are a little different. And I know he went through a lot. I mean, when you think about, you leave high school, you leave home, you go somewhere else, you leave Baltimore.
Bro, being the number 1 recruit in the country is so different than when you were. It's so crazy.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
he went from a big boy situation, leaving Baltimore, going to Oklahoma. The next year, leaving Oklahoma when he was the only thing they could hang their hat on after Lincoln left, and then boom, he's gone. You go to LA, huge adjustment. you go from, your typical media appearance day and there's like 4 or 5 people in the room. Now you're in LA and there's 35 people in the room, 40 people, all kinds of different, just getting pulled different ways. And then you win the Heisman. And now he's really being pulled all these different ways and being told how great he is. It's going to be if he can go back and put together another year back to back like he did this year, it's really a testament to how strong he is mentally. Because it's really easy. Like, I transferred, or I left high school, I went to school, it didn't work for long. I left after a year. Then I went here and I won the Heisman. Everybody's telling me I'm not. I'm the next Patrick Mahomes. It's really easy to fall off the track that got you there. The track that got him there is what we've been hearing about. Getting up to 5:30 in the morning, training, lifting, eating right, taking care of his body. It's really easy to get distracted in LA. And now he's got a bunch of money, he's got fame, he's got, all these things coming at him. So there's, if he slips that, I would be surprised because he seems really, really mentally strong and focused. But if he doesn't slip up and he goes out and does what he does again and stays healthy and just plays lights out week in, week out, the dude is, I mean, aside from all the physical stuff, I mean, physically, he's got everything. He's got it all. You don't even see him throw many fastballs. We've seen him throw like 5 or 6 fastballs all year. His touch and the floaters he can throw and the different arm angles and outside the pocket. And when he really wants to let one loose, there isn't anybody around that has the velocity that he has. But if he's got the mental side of it, which we're going to find out, it will be tested throughout this year. If he can stay on track and keep leading that team and keep getting better and improve, because there's tons of improvement. He's 20. I mean, he ain't done. He's not a finished product. So if he gets better, it's going to show that he's also got the mental side of it and the strength mentally, which is what separates you really at the end of the day from everybody else, because everybody can really throw it pretty good. So I think this is going to be a really telling year. If he can do something similar to what he did this year, I'm not saying he's going to win a Heisman back-to-back, but if he can go out and win just about every game and be in New York in December again, he might be one of the best of this generation. I'm not saying a lot because this generation has seen Brady and Breeze and Pat and Joe, and who knows, he might be better than them all if he can do all that with all the distractions he's surrounded with right now.
Yeah, I think his best reps are ahead of him to deal with this. The not reps of practice, the reps of like dealing with everything you just said. So they started doing the thing with the crown on his head, right? Insinuating he's the king of LA. He's absolutely the king of LA. LeBron, I mean, the Lakers aren't even going to make the playoffs. You know what I mean? The Dodgers, baseball. I haven't watched a baseball game in 10 years. Like he's the king of LA. UCLA is rebuilding, all that stuff. So he's got a chance to like be on the Kobe trajectory here, right? But Kobe will like have all the success and all the pressure and all the hype, and then he just come back and repeat.
And
nothing changed.
Develop,
you know what I mean?
Lopez game in that off season. So yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see what's Lincoln gonna like. How does Lincoln challenge him? Does Lincoln straight up just say, "Hey, week 3, we're going to go no huddle and it's on you"? I mean, how do you continue to challenge him? Because it's really easy. Like you saw it in.
Oh, dude, I think it's things like no one's ever won it twice. I mean, Archie Griffin's only got to win it twice. That type of thing. Like, and plus, dude, think about it like this. They lost to Tulane in the bowl game. They lost to Utah twice. This isn't some undefeated season where you're sitting here going like, what do we have left to play for? What do you have left to play for? You didn't even go to the Rose Bowl, let alone the net, playoffs. So he's got plenty to play for. And by the way, this is not a stat guy either. I don't know how much time he spent with it. This dude's trying to win. Like he's trying to be a champion. You know, some guys are like, yeah, we didn't have that great of a season, but I got that Heisman. Like, I don't think he's that guy. I think he's trying to win, trying to go undefeated to win. I
agree. I just think there's Lincoln's so creative and so brilliant. I would love to hear how do you challenge Caleb? You know, easy OTAs are for Caleb. And you saw it in the Pac-12 championship. There were some times where he just knew he wasn't going to have much time in the pocket, and he got depth, found his lane, put his foot in the ground, and took on. He went way outside the playbook. He just said, I got to figure out a way. It's 3rd and 13. I got to get 15 yards. And so it's easy. Like it's so, when you watch him play, the game is so easy. He can do whatever he wants. He can push up in the pocket. He can throw the ball outside the pocket. He can take off and run.
He's just an NFL dude playing against
So
college
how do
kids.
you challenge him? Because he's going out against, I mean, that defense couldn't stop some high school offenses. And so when you practice against that every day and you have a really good system, and you have a system where Lincoln Riley's calling plays, so he's probably got guys with some separation open, it's really boring to throw overs and crossing routes on dig if there's no challenging, on the receiver side. If there's not a really tight window, you have to fit one in and feed it through. It just can get monotonous and it can get boring. And so that's a challenge for him. I think that's a bigger deal than a lot of people realize, just because you've got to, I know he wants it and he wants to be great and he wants to win, but he still has to go out and practice. He still has to live for the team. He still has to go through OTAs. He still has to go to training camp. So how do you, he's got now, and now it's not about money, right? You don't want to get drafted so you have money. So how do you entice him to want to get better without getting bored? And with that, boredom can create bad habits. It can make you go outside of the system. And I know I could throw my first read or my second read. I'm just going to go figure out a way to get to my third read, and then you're all out of whack. So how do you just continue to kind of keep that carrot dangled in front of him without, other than saying, hey, you lost 3 times last year. How do you not do that this year? Like, how do you
How do you keep that flame through 20 years of marriage? I hear you. I personally, what I do for a living with a couple of my clients, like it's the same thing, right? Like, I mean, what does Joe Burrow really need to focus on this offseason? I got a couple things, and so it's building consistency, and it can't be about success. The difference between NFL and college, when you're talking about motivating guys like that, is in the NFL, the Bengals don't have 6 cupcake wins on their schedule. It's the NFL. Anybody can beat anybody. You better read your shit every Sunday or you're going to lose to the worst team in the league, because they got a bunch of NFL guys on their team. Versus SC gets to play, I don't know their schedule, but there's 5 or 6 games where Caleb doesn't have to play and they'll win by 40. So like, that's, I think, the challenge in college is playing at that level. We're all familiar with the trap game, and they got these guys this week, but you look at a schedule and you're like, there's 6 of them on here, right? Especially in the Pac-12.
The best of it.
I think
and take a page from Nick Saban. Figure out how he does it. How has Nick Saban done that, playing Jackson State week 3? Like, how do you keep the best players in all of college football focused and challenged? Like, that's a big deal. And Nick Saban doesn't get enough credit for doing it. And Lincoln Riley hasn't really had to do it now or yet, because every great one he's had has then graduated and gone on to the NFL. Now he's got a guy that's back, because he's got to be back, and how he challenges him and keeps him focused on getting better and improves is going to be really, really interesting to see.
All right. So this is something you and I have done a lot, kind of hanging out, talking on the phone. We play together. We did this a lot, walking in the woods, playing GM. Right. I don't know if you remember this, but when I got to Cincinnati early in my career, I wanted to be a GM. That was kind of what I was thinking I wanted to do. I liked business. I liked learning about things. I loved football. Then I got there and saw the time commitment that those guys don't even go outside the building. Like, they don't even see the sun. So I got off that real quick. But it doesn't mean that you and I didn't break down guys in the draft to talk about this and salary cap. And most of the time we didn't know what we were talking about. A bunch of the time we did. We were probably GM. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna build your offense here. Okay, so we'll start with, you're gonna pick a current. You can go current or former. I'm fine with former. Offense coordinator. Let's not get into head coach and defense and what they do and all that stuff. So you're gonna pick an offensive coordinator. Okay, based off we'll use system today, NFL 2023, like the system you think works the best. Okay, then you can pick the perfect quarterback for it. Then we'll go X, Z, Y, F, and H. Okay, we're not gonna touch O-line. We're not gonna touch defense. Yep. Cool. So from a system standpoint, ability to learn, stretch the field, answers and protections, shots, all that stuff. Before you get to personnel, what offensive coordinator or offensive mind would you hire to come in and run your
Shanahan's?
Why?
Just separation. I mean, he separation and easy completions. I think when you watch today's game, if I was calling plays, as opposed to when I wanted to play, I wanted to go deep within the first 3 plays just to get corners and safeties back. to be worried about the potential of that first one that maybe went for a touchdown or almost did or got a PI. And now I want quick game. I want a screen. I want an easy smoke on the backside of a run if the corner is off. Like just getting a quarterback 3 for 3 halfway through the first drive or 5 for 7 after the first drive and a touchdown. That goes a long ways, especially with a lot of these young quarterbacks playing. And Shanahan's as good as anybody at it. I mean, you saw him do it. He found a way with a guy that had literally a torn UCL in that NFC championship. He found a way to get Brock Purdy completions. Even though you knew the screen game was coming, he still found a way to get the ball out of his hand quick. It's just like shooting a free throw for a guy that's struggling to shoot, or, a basketball player, just seeing the ball go through the net, seeing the ball, completed, and then forcing the defense to have to go and make a tackle. It ain't easy to go and tackle the ground and sprint all the way over here and hit him, hit the ground, get hit while you're making a tackle, and then get back up in the huddle while everybody else on offense is getting ready for the next play. And I just think that goes a long way. And so Shanahan does that week in, week out, wherever he's been, Cleveland, Houston, now in San Fran, he gets easy completions, and he gets the stat line for a quarterback when he comes back to grab a Gatorade on the side of the field, feeling really confident and good, even though he may not have thrown the ball past 10 yards or thrown a ball that most people in the stands could have completed. So I think he's as good as it comes, or as good as it gets when it comes to that. And then he creates separation. And kind of what we were talking about with Brock Purdy earlier, I think there's a lot to be figured out with Brock, because he's thrown to guys that have had so much separation. And it's just hard. I mean, unless you got, a Chad Ochocinco, a Keenan Allen that just can win versus any coverage, it's hard to get separation unless you've got a receiver you're paying 22 or 25 million a year. If you don't have that guy, there aren't a bunch of guys that can create separation naturally, but he's one of the few coaches that can do it for a 3rd round pick, a 4th round pick, a free agent receiver. He can get separation for his receiver, for his quarterback to get easy throws.
I love it. The best way I ever heard it articulated was Mark Trestman in Chicago with me. He said every completion has a negative effect on the defense. And so when you complete a ball, 5-yard check down, right? That corner over there is going to do one of two things. He's either going to get off a block and fight to take a pursuit angle, or get yelled at for not doing it. That defensive tackle is going to need to do one of two things. He's going to fight off a block, take a pursuit angle, or it's a loaf, right? It's a lazy play. So they have to do one of those two things. And then every time you have an incompletion, everybody on defense stops, recovers, gets the appropriate personnel in, gets a play design that the defensive coordinator loves, and has plenty of time to communicate that to everybody on the defense and gets to it. And so it was one of those, like, that for me was such a light bulb of
mentally, they just won. Quarterback's 0 for 1. Ball hit the ground. So there's a mental win for the defenders as well.
Even if the receiver drops it, the DB gets to do this.
Yeah.
Even if he had nothing, even if he got beat on the play, that shit. You see all the time. I love it. All right, so you got Shanahan. Okay, so now we've got this piece together. So you got Shanahan. Who's running Shanahan's offense? Who's pulling
Joe Burrow. I think Joe's the best quarterback in the league. I know Patrick is phenomenal, but I just think Joe's more consistent. He's more consistent. He's more accountable to run the system and the play that's called, and not feel like, well, he didn't win last time and get open for me, so I'm going to do it with my feet. And then before you know it, you're socked for a 4-yard loss because you tried to make 2 or 3 guys miss. Joe is just, they're talk about not having a weakness. Mentally strong, physically tough, accurate, can throw it far enough, fast enough, gets the ball out quick, and then he can actually do a lot with his legs. He just rarely shows it. And it's not, I think he's as athletic outside the pocket with, and can do a lot of the same things Patrick Mahomes has done. He hasn't done it and showed it yet. He's played more within his system and style, but I think he's the best quarterback in the league.
Wow, I love it. I think one of my favorite things, and I don't know if anybody knows this, so the first time you ever met Joe, so when Joe won the national championship and that craziness, I'd never seen anybody's life change in a shorter amount of time. Okay, so he goes to LSU, and when I met him going into his senior year, he was the blonde guy from LSU. Like, it was Joe, right? It was James or Joe. Like, he was just, we didn't know which guy he was. And then all of a sudden, You know, LSU's 4-0, 5-0, 7-0. Well, no one in that building's ever been 7-0. So guys, you know, when it is college, these guys start feeling themselves. Guys start, you know, the agents get involved and all this stuff in college. And so they're like 10-0, 11-0, 12-0. So impressive. And I was talking to them throughout the year was that how he was able to keep it together and manage expectations and get guys to, it's so easy to say one game at a time. Like, it's so hard for college. It's hard for NFL guys to do that, let alone college guys. Let alone dudes in the South who are feeling themselves and fired up and never been good before. So he goes 15-0 and has this crazy ass year. And his life changed so much that we had the Super Bowl that year, first week of February in Miami. That was actually, I didn't start draft training with him until Miami because his life had changed so much. I'm like, dude, they win the Natty, they got a parade, you know, it's Louisiana, so it's like a week's worth of shit. I'm like, dude, you need to go back to Ohio and just decompress for like a week or two. Let's throw in Miami and then start draft training after that. We already know where you're getting picked. We're not in no hurry. We're not getting ready for the combine. I run the 40. And then COVID hit that year. But you came and watched him throw that first day at a random field. Chance for the three of us, really the two of you guys to talk. You had some questions. And like watching him throw that day, which was like not super impressive to everything that's come after that. I mean, you've actually got to see the evolution. We all watched this senior year. You got to kind of see him the first day. Like what's most impressive in terms of what he's been able to do? And on top of that, you understand how difficult it is to win in Cincinnati. I would probably say more than any person ever. What's the most impressive thing to you?
Well, I mean, first off, you're right. I mean, he's not like an overly like impressive person walking into the room physically. I mean, you watch Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's a specimen.
He's got 50 pounds,
yeah,
on, 40 pounds on him.
You wouldn't, I mean, if he walked on the street, you wouldn't go, that's an NFL football player. He's 6'3", 210 on a good day.
He's 6'4", 203 is what he's playing at right now.
There's a lot of people walking down outside my house that are 6, you know. There's Justin Herbert, there's Cam Newton, there's, you know, these physical specimens.
I mean, Josh is massive.
I mean, you look at some of these guys playing, but you know who else looks at that like that and has that same exact build is Tom Brady. But Tom doesn't have the wheels and isn't as confident with the ball in his hands running as Joe is. I mean, Joe doesn't want to take off and run. He wants to work through his progressions, and sometimes he just doesn't have the option to do that because of the pressure, and he finds a way to move up in the pocket. And then you saw him do it in the championship game on third and whatever it was, where he shook a number 32 for the Chiefs wide open. And he's dead to rights. That's fourth down. You're punting, and he just has that wiggle, shake at the right time. He's so confident in his legs. He just doesn't take off and do it as much as Mahomes does. But as far as like most impressive, man, I just think when you watch him play, nothing is too big. Nothing is overwhelming. I mean, you think back last week watching that game, and you think you lost 60% of your offensive line, and everybody told you the year before how much your offensive linemen suck. And those starters, part of those guys are gone, and then you bring in, you know, 3 new positions, and all 3 of them are out, and you're playing against, you know, one of the better defenses and the better pass rushes and a couple of guys they have up front. And it just never seemed like he even realized that La'el Collins was gone and Kappa and these guys were out. It never fazed him. He stuck with the plan. And it's so I don't think people get how hard that is to do. You lose La'el Collins, who I know he struggled early, but he was coming along as the season. He was getting better and better. And that offensive lineman started after week 3, 4, 5. They really started playing well. And from a mental standpoint, when you're going into the biggest game of your year, there is absolutely 100%, and a lot of guys would feel, man, I wish La'el didn't lose his knee, and I wish so-and-so didn't hurt his ankle. I wish so, like, it's so hard to fight that. I don't think those things ever came across Joe's mind. I don't think he ever said, man, can you imagine if we're going into Arrowhead with our starting O-line, which I would have, and just about everybody else I know would have. I don't think that thought even came through his head because he seems so mentally strong that it's like, he had a moment as that week was building up where he was like, okay, that would be an easy excuse. I need to block that out and never think about that again. And he can do that. And then he went to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It just was laser focused. And I think that's what impresses me most is physically. I mean, when on the biggest stages, he throws absolute seed. The ball is on the money time and time again.
Dude, he had 3 of the sickest incompletions I saw this week.
I know.
This week.
I mean, balls, the
ones
balls
that were
where you
complete.
can't believe that it hit it's like, oh my gosh, that actually hit the guy in the hand. And he dropped it. But he was doing it, with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase when those guys were wide open. But a lot of times, and I thought what was really impressive about those in the BCS games or the playoff games in college was a lot of times when you see that guy wide open, you're a little worried about it, and that ball ends up on the back hit. I mean, he was absolutely dropping dimes to wide open receivers, and that's impressive. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I don't know if you give yourself enough credit because I would say, and I get questions a lot of times because I'm in a weird position here, right? Like, you're my older brother, I've been around you, number 9, Bengals, number 1 pick, all the stuff. Worked with Joe, number 9, number 1 pick, all this stuff. Like, so what are the similarities? What's this? All that. And I mean, there's differences in your guys' physical build. He's a little bit more mobile. You had a lot more juice. But I think you guys were both emotionless in that moment, right? And so there was a year you never got credit for it. I think you had 7 fourth quarter comebacks, right? You remember beating Baltimore, hitting Bubba Caldwell in a seam with no time left. Like, you had all these comebacks, right? You also had a torn ligament in your hand, taped 2 fingers together. No one ever really knew it because you didn't even think to tell anybody about it because you just blocked it out and worked forward. And so there's some really cool things that I'm uniquely positioned that no one else in the world would sit here and I'm watching. And I gave a shit about the Bengals before, and I give a shit about the Bengals now. Ford's team right now, the flag team's the Bengals, by the way. It's pretty funny.
Sweet.
But
Sweet.
Just emotionless, right? So easy to go down this path of like what it could have been and what would have happened in this, but it's like move forward. So it's a commonality I see in you guys, which is really cool. All right, we'll go faster here, right? So you got Kyle Shanahan dialing it up. You got Joe Burrow pulling the trigger. Who are you going to put at X? And just for people watching this, the X, you got to command double coverage. We're not going to put you in motion a lot. You got to be able to win a one-on-one matchup. You're making way more money than Z. So, and most people don't know this. So the X is making more money than Z. The X has to win one-on-one matchups to the point where you're commanding double coverage. If we're picking an X, this is a guy who commands double coverage. And not being moved around a ton and utilizing space, you got to be able to do those 2 things. So who's your X? Current right now. Let's go current right now because you're watching enough ball.
I'd put Justin Jefferson at X. I'd go all LSU. I'd go Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and Joe at quarterback.
All right. I love it. But what about why? If you pick Charles Shanahan, you're going to be running the ball. Okay. So I don't know if you could pick Travis Kelce here.
No, I'd go Kittles because he can block defensive ends one-on-one. And he's a dog.
Yeah.
And he can catch.
I like it.
And he makes huge plays in huge moments.
And he makes
and
yards after catch too.
Against Dallas, he's complete. And I'm not saying I love Kelce and I think he is phenomenal, but he's a receiver. Kittles is a tight end. Travis Kelce is essentially a receiver.
Yeah, I agree. All right, last up, running back. Zone scheme, outside zone, stretch, press the point, cut back,
Dalvin
crossover,
Cook.
roll over it. That's who I picked too. Dalvin Cook.
Put him in Shanahan's offense.
That's a heater. I like it. All right, so there's your offense. I love it. Great discussion about Joe Burrow. I was curious to see you pick there, so I love it. So I would have thought that you picked Kyle Shanahan. I would have thought that you picked Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. I wasn't sure who you were going to pick a quarterback, and I would have picked Dalvin Cook too. So I like that.
Everybody else would pick Mahomes.
Yeah, there's people that pick Josh too.
Or Josh.
Poor Aaron. Yeah. This is the way I've described it. Joe in year 2 last year is Aaron in his prime already. That's the way to look at it. The best that Aaron's been. I think Joe's there is year 2.
They're so different, though.
The way they do it is different. The results are not that different.
No, I mean, the results are, yeah.
Just the back shoulder.
I would much rather.
I think Joe's the best back shoulder thrower in the league. But like Aaron's been incredible with that. So, you know what I mean? That's like, usually that's for like weak armed guys or guys who throw catchable balls. But like, the big arm guys, usually it's like a part of their game, but they don't build on it to the point where you actually are more worried about defending the back shoulder than the over the top throw.
Okay.
That totally, I've talked some conversations with some defensive coordinators where they're like, when the game's built on the back shoulder and the over the top is the secondary threat, you have problems on defense. Which is interesting.
But Joe can throw the deep ball with the best of them as well.
Yeah. Oh, the one he had at T that just because it's the running jump ball. It's not just like the perfect, over the shoulder ball. It's them like firm with an arc. They get to go up off 2, go up with 2, come down with 2 that you can't defend, especially with a guy like T or some of these bigger guys.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, let's wrap with this. This is actually my favorite part of doing this. It's called the 2-minute drill. I'm going to throw it to you. I know your journey better than anybody. Depending on where you take this is whatever people are familiar with of you. We're going to put 2 minutes on the clock. Jake, go ahead and throw it up. And you can start this wherever you want. You can start this at Valley Oak Eagles, 4th grade in Fresno playing quarterback. You can start this in high school, but you got 2 minutes to kind of go through your journey, right? Football's a big piece of it. You're also married with 4 kids, have a lot of life, have a lot of business too. So you're proud of a lot of things. You got a lot of things to be proud of. A lot of it's the people and the accomplishments and situations you've handled yourself great in. But I'm going to throw it to you. I'm going to put it on mute and we'll start the clock and start it where you want. And it ends wherever you want it to end. With current players, I'd say it ends today. With you, you can end it with your career. Dan, it today.
Yeah. So my journey started, I really loved basketball and I hung out with the basketball team for the most part because I just loved playing pickup at the park. I loved practicing. I loved shooting baskets. I loved we had that little bootleg hoop on that little narrow trash can alley on the side of the house. And I was out there every single night doing 3, 2, Palmer with the last second pull up down by 1. I mean, I would do that every single night. And I really liked football. I didn't like watching football. I just like being outside. And whether it was you and I playing that stupid game where we get across the street and see how many times we could throw it across the street without hitting cars and without the ball hitting the ground, to just shooting baskets on the side of the house. And then realized that football was a better opportunity for me to go to college. And so went through some highs and lows, at the college level, finished on a really strong note, got drafted really high, won the Heisman Trophy, and then got to the NFL. And every time I got really close, every time I was on a really good team, I had a season-ending knee injury. So the first one, we had a really good team in Cincinnati. We were good on defense. We could stop the run. We could score a ton of points. We had weapons on the outside. We weren't real big and physical, but we were really built to make a run because we could score a bunch of points, and we were really opportunistic on defense. And then we get the first playoff game, the first play of the game, I blow my knee out. Season over. Went through some ups and downs in Cincinnati and then got on a really good team in 2000 and I think it was 2009 with Arizona. Really good on defense. Todd Bowles is our defensive coordinator. Nobody really knew who he was yet. Tons of cover zero, tons of pressure. We were awesome on defense, long on offense. I think we were 9-1, 10-1 maybe, and then boom, I blow my knee out again. And so those are low points. When you go through an injury like that, those were the lows. There was a lot of highs in between, but I loved every second of the game. I got to play with my brother for a couple of years, got to live out my dream, got to run out of NFL tunnels and play on Monday Night Football and play in big time games. And I loved every second of it. I never felt like it was a low. The lows never felt like they were low. It was just like, oh, here we go. Probably get surgery next week. Then rehab starts. Here we go. Got to come back stronger. But now that I look back and I get asked about it a lot, the 2 best teams I was on, probably most talent, season-ending knee injury ended it. And now that I look back, I realized it was a low, but I never at that moment realized it was a low. And now my 2 minutes is up. I'm in overtime, but I'm a father of 4. I'm happier than I was ever when I was playing football because I've got 4 beautiful kids that still listen to me. For the most part, 2 of them still listen to me and they like hearing football stories. 2 of them still like hearing football stories. But yeah, I'm a dad. I'm in the business world now and I'm a former player. And that's my journey. My journey's just getting started.
I love it. It's so funny, man. We just think football is like it and it's life. It's like you look 48, but you're probably closer to 43 and like you got a lot of life ahead of you and you played forever. I mean, you played 16, 15?
15, yeah.
14?
15.
15 years after playing 5 years in college, after playing 4 years in high school, after playing 8 years before. It's crazy. And you have like this whole life ahead of you. So it's incredible. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you. From my perspective on what I do now or what I've done for the last, this is my 15th year doing draft training, 14th year doing draft training. 10 guys taken in the top 6 picks, 15 first-round picks total. A lot of guys taken after that. Still the number one best example, remove bias, of actually how to do this is you. And it's the whole thing, right? There's the, they called you the judge machine because it was so perfect coming out. There's all the physical stuff, a lot of which is God-given. And then the rest of it, and a lot of it is work ethic and talent. But a lot of guys work really hard. A lot of guys work at this. You know what I mean? But it was all of it. It was the way you treated the equipment guy. It was the way you attacked rehab. It was the way that you dealt with adversity. It was the way that you dealt with success. It was all of it. It's still the best example. And so it's so crazy that a coach's resume is based off of who they've coached, right? Oh, yeah, this is this guy. He coached that guy, right? For me, sure, names are on my resume for people that I've worked with, but the fact that I got to be around you, I didn't choose to. I didn't work really hard to be your little brother. I got just like designed for it to be. And my whole life growing up, I had this shadow over me because we'd play catch or I'd watch you go play and I'd go, shit, I can't do it like that. And that's how the good guys do it. I didn't realize till I got to the NFL that how you did it wasn't how the good guys were doing it. I realized, oh shit, it's totally different how he does it than the best guys do it. And that was like it was like a relief when I got there because I just thought I was not as good as the good guys as opposed to, oh no, this is actually the top tier. So super cool for me to be able to give back a lot of what I've learned, but shit, I mean, the majority of it's from you. And so to go through that, my whole journey in my life and the impact that it had, to watch all that happen and to realize now looking back on it, it's like, that's actually the gold standard of how to do it. And it's less about the touchdowns and the yards. And I don't remember what your stats are. That's not even a part of it. It's just the way you went about it. And it's cool, man. The younger generation of guys are choosing to do it that way. Back in the day, they didn't get good grades. They cut, like, you know what I mean? It wasn't cool to get good grades. Guys didn't handle those. Guys partied their balls off. And it's like, I don't know, the best young quarterbacks like get really good grades. They're really good dudes and they actually work at it, year round. And so I just think you're one of those key guys that really changed the game and changed the trajectory for all these young guys. And I'm just uniquely positioned to kind of watch it happen. So super cool, man.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, it means a lot coming from you. I know you've seen a lot and you're the best in the biz, man. It says a lot that my son goes to you for quarterback tutelage.
Yeah.
I mean, what you've built and the respect that you've built throughout the league, but also throughout this generation of Fletch, who's in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, high school, college, pro, going into the pros, and the guys that are actually in the league coming back to train with you. And it's not just because you're great at mechanics and you understand, energy transfer, all these very scientific things that go into the throwing motion, but it's the environment that you create. It's the mental things that they get. And part of these young guys probably wanting just to do things right. And that's not all about the flash and about this and that. It's about working hard, putting the time in. They're learning that from you. And that's really special. And you need to understand that because that's the culture that you've created. You put the work in, you can still have fun. You can still have music going. You can still, have phones and videos out, but you put the work in and these guys that are coming to you see the translation on the field. And that says a lot.
Well, appreciate it, man. Like Dad told us when we were little, show me, don't tell me. Don't tell me how rough the sea is, just bring the ship home. There's all these like things that just like, they last forever. They're timeless. Learn a lot of them from you, learn a lot from other guys. But dude, thanks for coming on, man. This is awesome. Anybody who's watching this is like, well, I haven't seen these guys do this very much. This is the first time I've ever done this. So I'm going to talk like this and then put it out. So this would be cool. And really appreciate you taking the time, man. It's awesome.
Thank you. Well, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Love you, bro.